Hey, 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 party people. It is Brandi and Cecily, and we're back with Blooming Through Faith, the podcast that helps you grow and bloom in your mindset, lifestyle, health, and wealth. We want you to know that you are capable, beautiful, and worthy. Make sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating on the podcast so more people can find it and listen. Today, we're going to talk about how you can be more intentional with living, and I am going to kick it off to Cecily to start us out.
Yeah. So before we even jump into how we can begin to live intentionally, we want to let you know what we even mean by that. Like, how are we not living intentionally? So the majority of us are filling our lives with like tons of clutter, tons of stuff, mental stuff, emotional stuff, literal, actual physical stuff. We overconsume. It really leads to us feeling overwhelmed and unsatisfied. So for this week's episode is I want you to maybe you're in a place where you can close your eyes. If you're driving, please don't do that. But I want you to visualize the life that you want. Okay. So think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, think about the impact that you want to have on the world. Think about your family, what your family looks like. Think about what your job looks like. Think about what your day-to-day life looks like in the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of times we'll look at that and we'll say, man, I really wish that this is how my life could be. But we don't do anything to take the steps to get there. And everything that you're visualizing is possible. It's all possible if you can get out of your own way. Not being intentional is the biggest form of self-sabotage. So you have to start thinking about what are you doing right now that is serving you and serving your future? And what is serving God's purpose for you? And what are you doing that is just fluff, that's just taking up a lot of space in your day?
Oh, I love that so much, especially when it comes to kind of manifesting it, right? And visualizing it and praying about it, right? And thinking about it. So all of those things are important, but then also putting in the work to make it happen. I have something so corny. You guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, Brandi. So I'm going to tell you anyway, because it's talking about manifesting. So when I was younger, I wanted a Jeep. My dad said no, too dangerous. So he got me like a speedy car instead, because that made sense. Anyway, so yeah, I know it's going like 100 miles an hour. Okay, but it won't tip over. Anyway, I've always wanted a Jeep. And I remember every night, 18, 19, 20, I would just think about, and I wanted a pink Barbie Jeep, didn't get the pink one. But anyway, long story short, I always wanted a Jeep and I made it happen. So my first Jeep was when I moved back, I think it was 25. And then I upgraded and got another Jeep. We got a Ford. It was a bigger one. It was so cool. And then upgraded and got another one. Jeeps have always been my favorite, but I love what Cecily was saying with like the visualizing it, right? Because it might sound corny, but I did every single night. Always wanted that. And now I'm a grown up and I got rid of my Jeep because, I got two little boys. I got a big old SUV, right? But when you were saying that, it made me think of that story. Okay. So let's move on. Here are some tips to make sure you are living intentionally, my friends. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. We're going to talk about relationships, all right? So are you being intentional with your time with your spouse? And what do I mean by that, right? When you guys are going out on date nights, are you unplugging? Are you going out on date nights, all right? It is important to make sure you have that time together and truly unplug and find out fun things about each other and talk about your past if you haven't, right? You should know everything about your spouse, what sets their soul on fire, what their favorite movie is, and making sure you have that date night in your calendar. Now, again, our circumstances are different. So maybe you can't have a babysitter and go out every single month. Maybe you don't trust anybody with your kids because maybe your family and friends like don't live close to you, whatever it is. Maybe get a nanny, and while the nanny's watching the kids upstairs, downstairs you guys are having a dinner or doing a picnic in the backyard, right? So whatever that might be, it doesn't have to be something fancy and going out and whatever the circumstances are, right? Make sure you're making time for your spouse. One of my favorite things, it's called the Adventure Challenge book. So Mitch and I got this, and you basically scratch it off and it tells you what to do for your date. And it's so different. It's so unique. So it's not the same thing over and over again. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the love language. So Cecily, My love language is touch. Okay. My husband's love language is quality time. Now, I didn't know that before, right? So, since my love language is touch, I would literally be working on my phone, sitting on the couch, rubbing Mitch's back, and I'm in heaven. I'm like, we're spending time together. This is cool. And Mitch is like, no, you're on your phone, you're working, you're not even paying attention to me.
He's
So,
so
when
mad.
he. So when he did the test, I was like, oh, snap, I have to change my ways. This is why we're not as close. This is why we're not as connected. So when we do have date nights, I unplug. I am intentional with my time. Now, sometimes, when I'm going to the bathroom, I reply to text messages. So you guys don't yell at me if you're texting me during date night. Okay. So just make sure you know your spouse's love language too. All right. That's so fun. There's a little quiz that you can do. Family trip versus vacation, or versus a vacation. Cesley, do you want to talk on that a little bit? Because you're actually the person who told me this, and it resonated so much with me.
Yes. Okay, I love family trips. I'm definitely someone who can just jump in the car, go. I want to take the kids everywhere. We love adventures. But the thing about a family trip is that a family trip is not a vacation. Okay. A family trip is a trip that you take with your family. And it is definitely not the same thing as a vacation. So, a family trip is something that you need to be intentional about also, because when you have a family, just because you're at home together doesn't mean you're spending time with each other. Okay. Sometimes you can be with your family all week long and still feel like you haven't gotten much time with them because you're so busy doing a million different things. So it's really important to be intentional about family trips. But you might notice, I know for me, like as a mom and a wife, when I come home from those family trips, I sometimes feel more burnt out than when I left. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the time. It's not to say that I didn't love it and have the best time, but it's not the same thing as taking a vacation and taking intentional time for yourself. And you definitely need both. Like 100%, you need both. You have to have both. And something that you said about love language also really resonated with me, because my husband's love language is also completely different than mine. And I had to learn this over time because I did not understand why he was getting so snappy at little things that I was doing. And I was like, what is your problem? Until I actually sat down and was intentional about the time that I spent with him. Like, us sitting on the couch together was not intentional time for him. And every time I looked over at him and noticed that he was on his phone, I would snap at him and he would go, I picked up my phone the second you picked up your phone. And I went,
Ooh,
oh, whoops, well, whoopsie. Like, I actually
Tommy.
totally got busted. And I was like, I didn't realize that I do it so much. But in my mind, because I work from home, my cell phone is my business. Like, I do everything from my phone. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm working. And he goes, okay, well, I'm hanging out. Like, I don't know what the difference is. We're not spending time together. So what's the difference? So I had to really take a step back and be intentional about the time I was spending with him. It made such a difference.
It really does. It really does. And by the way, like, our husbands are so the same.
They're the
We are
greatest.
so lucky because they're
Yeah.
just so sweet. We love you guys. All right. So make sure you're not just taking family trips, guys, because that's not truly a vacation. You need to unplug and be with your spouse. And honestly, if you can even take a trip with your girls, OMG.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Those are my favorite girls retreat. So looking at your calendar at the beginning of the year and being very intentional with, okay, when can my husband and I take a vacation just us? When can we take a family trip? And then when can I get a girls trip in and some time alone, because it is so necessary. All right. Speaking of kids, are we being intentional with the time with our kiddos? I don't know where I heard this or learned this, but I think it is so important, especially when you have more than one child, that each parent has a special day with them each month. So Mitch will take Troy. They will do something together. I will take Troy. I will do something together. Obviously, when kids older, it'll be the same thing. I think Cecily does the same thing with her kids. It's just being intentional and spending that one-on-one time with them, especially when you have younger ones. Like right now, I have a 4-month-old and a 4-year-old, and a lot of my attention goes to my 4-month-old. I want my son to know that he is valued, he is special, that I love him. So having that one-on-one time is important, and even unplugging, right? So making sure that when you're having family dinners, right? We get so busy and we get caught up in the day-to-day to where we might be coming home and we're throwing dinner together and the kids watching TV. Maybe sit down, unplug, ask each other about their day, right? I think that is so crucial and so important. Or even if it's just, movie night, like actually putting your phone down, like we just mentioned, turning the phone off and watching a movie together.
Yep.
Technology can be so beautiful and so helpful, but sometimes it's really bad too, because it's taking away of us being intentional and truly spending time together. And then there's a few more things that I want to share with you guys. So Adventure Challenge, there are a ton of different apps that you can do with your spouse. And I think Cecily is going to talk about one she does with Tommy. And there's 2 apps that I use because life is crazy and busy. So like today, it's important for me to get my workout in. It's important for me to get some work done and then be intentional because it's my son's birthday. But I have to get groceries. So what did I do today? I ordered my groceries online. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, no, it costs more money. It's $10 for a delivery fee. Well, let's listen up, people. It actually saves you money because you're not scrolling through the aisles and grabbing things that you don't need. You're welcome. You're being intentional with what you need. You have your list. You're putting it in your cart. It's getting delivered. It's saving you time and it's saving you money. So there's a tip for you. And then another thing that I just learned from my gal, Ashton, she's one of my good friends. It's a laundry app. It's called Poplin. Okay. So our dryer broke a few weeks ago, and we just couldn't get our laundry done. So I did that app, and it was literally only $100 a pound. So it was like 6 big old bags. It cost like $40. It was actually a girl that I knew and used to train who did it. So I was supporting her and her family and her business.
Yeah.
It saved me time. It wasn't that much money. I'm
Love
not
it.
saying that you have to do it every single week or every month, but when you have crazy weeks, give yourself some grace. Get the laundry done, get the groceries delivered, and spend more time on the things that you need to, like your business, your work, your family, and be intentional.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, that is so important. I think let's talk about value of time for a second, because that's the biggest thing that I think Brandi is really talking about here is the value of your time. Like, so often we put things in 2 categories. Like, we put things in, we have this hustle culture and we put things in spend money and save money. And that's it. I don't do these things because I'm saving money. And I'm not talking about, okay, maybe if you're trying to save money, maybe you're not going and getting your nails done. Maybe you're not going and getting your hair done as often. Like, those for sure are things I can understand where you're taking away. But if there are things that you are not able to fit in your day and that are taking away your peace is worth $40. Like,
Yes,
your
ma'am.
peace. And I'm not saying, I know we all come from a different budget. I come from a single mom life. Like, I don't live that life anymore, but that's where I came from. And I understand what it feels like to pinch every penny and to struggle financially. But when it comes to your peace of mind, it's okay to take a breath and say, like, the value of my time is worth more than doing this thing. And that's something that one of my mentors taught me a long time ago. She goes, if you want to advance in your career and the things you want to do, what is a better value of your time? Spending an hour working on your business or spending an hour doing your laundry? Like,
So good.
what's going to cost you a little bit of money right now, but give you more peace in the future? And I just never thought of it that way. Your time is valuable and your peace is valuable. And the app that you were talking about is called the Paired app. That's what I have for Tommy we love it. There are some like spicy questions in there, but we're married, so I feel like that's okay. Like, if you're
Totally
just dating
okay.
someone, I don't condone the Paired app, okay? Just calm down.
Oh, I'm going to download it though now.
You should
What's the name of it?
It's called Paired, and it's
Paired.
like a pair, like PAIR, like we're a pair. And so you have to answer a question every day. And there's a paid version and a free version. We just do the free version, that you answer a question and then they have to answer the same question, but you can't see each other's answers until you answer. And it's funny how so often it's spot on, but it spurs on all these it started getting Tommy and I to talk to each other more during the day, because he would answer it at work and I would see when he answered it and then I would answer it. And then we would start like talking to each other about our answers and stuff. And it was just a lot of fun. So highly, highly recommend. Also highly recommend being intentional with the time that you spend with your kids. Like Brandi mentioned, we do a phone basket, and we don't just do it for dinner. But what I noticed was that when the kids were waking up and doing breakfast, they were getting on their phones. And like, I know how some people have certain rules about phones. My kids have phones. They do lots of things on them. We're a homeschool family. Like, we do a lot of things very sheltered, but my kids have cell phones. Hate on it if you want to. But they do all kinds of stuff, and they're just sitting at the kitchen table. I walk in one day and nobody's talking to each other. So I put a basket on the table and I said, you know what? You just woke up. What you do first thing in the morning matters. It sets your intention for the whole day. We're going to be intentional about waking up slowly, getting our brains going. And the kids are in better moods every day. They changed everything. So being intentional about kind of the experiences that you spend with your kids, for sure. Okay, we got to rock and roll. Let's move on to your home. Okay, so this is going to be something that we have to talk about, but are you being intentional with your home and your space that you spend 99% of your time in? So a lot of times our houses just fill up with clutter. We see things on social media, we see things on Amazon. We live in like a one-click buy society, right? So we think, I need this. And sure, in the moment you need it, it might serve you for a time or a season or a reason, but I promise you not everything in your home is serving you right now. Okay? The best example I can give you is I used to work in businesses and run businesses where I needed to look really professional every single day. Okay? Now I work from home. I wear sweatpants all the time. But I still have a lot of these dresses and suits and clothing that I used to wear every single day that I promise you I will never wear again. It's time to get rid of those things. So here's some rules that I use. These are not all just plug and play, but they might help you. So one, I would encourage you to start with creating an intentional space in your home. Start with the room that you use the most. Okay, so walk into, maybe it's your living room, maybe it's your office, maybe it's your bedroom. Start with the room that you use the most because that's where you want to spend the most amount of intentional time. The one thing you should think about, or the three things you should think about is, have I used it in 3 months? Does it bring me joy? And does it have a current purpose? So I'm not talking about like Christmas decorations, but if it's, February and those are still in your living room, let's take them out, right? but have I used it in 3 months? Like, is this something that's hanging out in this room that I don't even use? It's just collecting dust, but I have a sentimental hold on it. Is it actually bringing me joy? Like, is this a picture frame or a piece of art or something that I enjoy? Or is it something that like Aunt Sally gave me at my bridal shower and I just have in my house that I don't actually even like? Because I will tell you, I just got rid of a box of, from almost 6 years ago, wedding like picture frames and things that people got me that were beautiful gifts. But I was like, I didn't register for this. I'm not going to use it, but I just kept it because I'm like, you don't throw away things people give you, I guess. I don't know. But toss it, get rid of it. It doesn't have a current purpose. You need to get rid of it. So those are kind of my 3 live bys when it comes to your home. I promise you, when you walk into a space and there's not just things that are overwhelming you, you're going to feel so much better about having an intentional space.
I love that, Cecily, and it makes me want to declutter and organize
I
now.
know.
I've been talking about it. This year's been a little rough, so I am going to take that as a sign from God that I need to declutter and organize. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that when my spaces are intentional and decluttered and organized, I just thrive better. I feel better. I have OCD and I have anxiety for those that need to know. So I do get really weirded out when everything's
Mm-hmm.
not clean and put into place. And now I'm just seeing so much more crap being piled up. Anyway, thank you for that. I'm actually going to be starting in my closet next weekend. So I will keep you posted. All right,
I
let's keep
can't wait to see
rocking
what
and
you fill up.
rolling. Oh, we're going to talk about another one of my favorites. Okay, movement and activity. All right, you guys are going to hear us talk about it a lot. We're just very passionate about it. We're both certified trainers. But
Mm-hmm.
think about your mindset, right? Are you finding yourself in a bad mood or a negative mindset like all the time? Are you being intentional about how you are moving your body? I say this all the time. I exercise for my mental health. I will repeat that. I exercise for my mental health. It is not to look good in a bikini, okay? It is because I know that I am a happier person, a better
Mm-hmm.
mom, and helps with my anxiety that we just talked about. I'm not, and helps with stress, right? All of those things. Especially postpartum, especially after baby, right? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but being intentional with getting that workout in, even if it's a walk with the baby, right? I know I just signed up for a gym and it's been so good because I get 45 minutes away from the whole family to really push myself. If you're not feeling movement or activity, find a accountability partner or 3. This morning, it's Monday morning and it's hard to get out of bed, but I have a great tribe, a great group of people that come over 6 a.m. on Monday mornings to my house and we get after it. So no matter how I feel, I don't want to let them down. So I'm waking up, I'm working out, and it is a great start to my day and to my week. So if it's not something that you enjoy, or maybe you're not sure how to get started, reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member. You guys don't actually have to meet, but maybe you just text and hold each other accountable, which is really important. Cecily, I think you're going to talk a little bit about like maybe binge watching and
Oh,
exercise and
yeah.
how we can balance.
Oh, yeah. So actually, something you said really resonated with me because I also, like, I have a full home gym. I run virtual workouts from my kind of gym space that is set up as a studio. And I found that at the beginning of the year, I had to sign myself up for and I run a fitness program. Like I love it. I enjoy it, but I had to sign myself up for a completely separate fitness program because like Brandi said, it's really easy to get unmotivated when you're in an unintentional space. So you have to be intentional. I was listening to a different podcast a couple of days ago, and they touched on the point that anxiety is 300%, so like 3 times higher now than it was pre-COVID. So like pre
Oh,
2020, pre-COVID,
wow.
people's anxiety is 3 times higher now, or the amount of people that have anxiety. And I stuck in just kind of holding in place, sheltering in place, not really having a plan. And then the world moved forward and we continued to be stuck in that mindset. And so we got really unintentional about what we're doing. Because I know for me as a mom, when my kids get out of bed and they get rolling, I'm going to tell myself I'm going to work. Oh, I'll work out later this afternoon. I didn't do it this morning. No, I won't. No, I won't. No, you won't. I'm just telling this to you. If whoever you are, if you're listening to this, you're not going to work out later this afternoon. Stop telling yourself that. Okay. You have to be intentional. And for me, that meant signing up for a gym that's 5 minutes away from my house, but that I know that if I sign up for a workout that day, I know it's going to remind me. I know I'm going to get my butt out of bed and I'm going to go because I made a commitment. So if maybe that's you, maybe it means making an appointment with yourself because it's really easy to get unmotivated. Even talking about like the time that we spend. So when you wake up, or maybe it's when you wake up, maybe it's later in the evening, it's really easy for us when we're not being intentional about our time on social media, our time on actual media. So like television and stuff, it's so easy to just sit down, put something on, and then you're with the technology of like Netflix and stuff that just rolls right into the next episode. You don't even realize that you're 6-7 episodes later and it's been 3 hours and you've been a potato. I'm not saying everybody doesn't need an opportunity to relax, but I am saying it's a good idea if you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself struggling with this, to be really intentional about your media usage. Because when you start sitting there binge watching things and spending hours doing things that don't work towards the life that you've visualized for yourself, then what are you doing? Like, it's just fluff, right? So the visualization I had you do in the very beginning of this episode, when I said, look at your life 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you look at that life, are you watching yourself sitting there watching a show? Because I can guarantee probably none of you were sitting there watching yourself
Oh my
watch
gosh.
Netflix shows, right? You were there seeing your family do awesome things, right? Like,
Let me say this though. Let me say this. If you are working while Netflix watching, like, okay,
that's
I have
okay.
to shout
I
out, yeah,
approve that.
I have to shout out my aunt. My aunt is one of the most brilliant women I have ever met in my life. She is a grant writer. She does very well, but she can do that. So
Mhm.
she literally can watch TV and she can write an incredible grant and do really well. So if you are
Yeah.
one of those incredible unicorns and you're
You're still moving
multitasking
towards
and
your
doing
goals.
both,
Yeah.
that is okay.
100%.
But also, but like Cecily said, stop triggering everybody. You don't have to give up your Netflix, okay? So everybody don't be like, we're done
Everybody's
listening to
going to call me after
those,
this episode.
those cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They don't even watch TV. No, we do, okay?
I do
We're
not.
just
I'm just kidding. I totally do.
we're just saying be more mindful. And I know for
Yeah.
me, I found myself last month watching more, like Cecily was saying, Netflix at night. I was drinking my little, my champagne, because you guys know Prosecco, hashtag Prosecco. And once all 3 of the boys were asleep, I was like, this is my only time. And it was like a scarcity mode. And I found myself
Mhm.
not feeling good in the morning for my workouts. So I told self. I said, self, you can still do Netflix and chill, just not every single night. So
Self, let's work on it.
so we're going to work on this together. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to be better. Okay. So I do feel better when I'm being more intentional with my time and wind down. I might take a bath and go straight to bed and read versus doing Netflix every night because I'm fueling my mind. I'm getting more sleep. Also, when you're watching, I find myself, I have more Prosecco the more I'm watching Netflix. If I have a glass in the bathtub, I'm done. I'm going to bed. It's just one and done, right? Not three.
Because it's intentional. Yeah.
It's intentional. Actually, Cecly's going to trigger you guys a little bit more later when it comes out.
Oh, I really am. I'm about to. We're just going to talk about all the things. Because, and listen, I love, like, I'm a TV watcher. Some people are like, we don't watch TV in our house. I'm a TV watcher. I love it. But I have found I have to make sure that I know, like, okay, I'm going to watch 3 episodes because you can sit there and really. And so 2 things I want to recommend if this is something that you know, like if I'm making you feel some kind of way right now, then you need to think about these 2 things. Okay. So for social media, I use an app called the Refocus app because when you're sitting there consuming other people's content all the time, it's not intentional. It sets a timer for me. I cannot get it on it before 7 a.m. And then it will let me know if I've been on it for 30 minutes or more. So it'll literally tell me like, hey, you've been scrolling for this amount of time. So I still enjoy seeing what's going on in my friend's world and scrolling on social media. I like it. I don't see it as a problem. But when I've been doing it for too long, it tells me, hey, maybe you want to back off now. Like maybe you want to relax. Okay. So I listen to it most of the time. And then the second one is Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. This is a book. And this book really talks about how we've created this culture of do so many things, hustle, hustle, hustle. And then we're so burnt out that we feel like we need to zone out, space out. And if you're spending more intentional time on everything in your world, you're going to feel more fulfilled. You're going to feel better about yourself. And you're not going to feel like you have to zone out at the end of the day, because that's really why we're doing it a lot of times is it's giving us our happy hormones for us instead of us going out there and kind of earning it. So this is going to be the last couple things that I want to talk about, and that is alcohol and food. All right. I'm not saying you cannot have a drink, but I am saying that if you visualize some goals for yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you're out partying with your friends every single weekend, I can tell you something, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get where you want to be. And alcohol is a really easy one to talk about because a lot of people are like, yeah, we know that drinking too much is bad for us, right? But food ties into that as well. Like, so for me, think about this. Mondays are a really big day for me. When I was in my 20s, Sunday fun day was like a really good time for me. Me and my husband and a couple friends of ours, we'd go out
and bottles.
Yeah, we just go have a good time on Sunday. We'd go eat lunch. We usually happen at like a brewery or something, right? So like we would go and just hang out. Like, yes, we took our children to the breweries. We did not, we weren't being insane, but we were just hanging out, having fun. And then on Monday, I realized I was exhausted. It was not moving me towards my goals. I was not being intentional. I don't think that I was being honoring to what God's plan is for my life. I think God has this big plan and purpose for us. And I think when we are getting distracted by things like that, we are not honoring God's plan for what he has for us 100%. So think about your week, right? So if you have a retail business, maybe that the biggest days of your business is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you probably shouldn't be going out drinking on those days, right? Do you own an online business where you work from home? That's where a lot of us are in this social retail space right now. What snacks are you eating throughout the day, right? Like, are you fueling your body properly, or are you just mindlessly grabbing whatever's in your pantry? Especially even things like if you are pregnant, planning for a vacation, like if you're pregnant, the first thing they'll tell you is take prenatal vitamins, take supplements, take folic acid. You have to be intentionally fueling your body for the stage of life you're in or the stage of life you want to be in. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Actually, you and I talked about this a while ago, and I have to thank you because yesterday was my son's birthday. Yeah, I'm going to thank you. Okay. And usually I would drink a little bit more because it's crazy. We party, we have a fun time, even though it's a kid's party. And then by the end of the night, I'm just exhausted because, when you're a mom and you're putting on a birthday party, it is a lot. So then I just wouldn't clean up until afterwards. Well, I didn't drink much yesterday because I was being mindful because Monday's a big day, and Cesley and I had talked about that. And then I cleaned up everything. So we had the party, organized the house, organized his gifts, got my office back in place. Like, yes. And I feel so much better today. And that is that simple tip, right? So Cecily's not saying don't drink, because that's crazy, right? We're real people. We drink. I mean, we could be better in life, but we're just going to tell you we are genuine. We are who we are. There's nothing perfect about us. Okay. But be mindful when you are, right? So if you have a big day Monday, don't get trashed on Sunday, right? Or maybe hydrate a little bit more. First off, when you're at like being efficient with your time, right? So like Cecily said, we wear a lot of hats. Everybody nowadays wears a lot of hats, right? So if you are working, maybe set a timer, right? Like don't multitask, but I'm going to talk about multitasking too, right? So there's all kinds of studies about whether multitasking is actually good or bad or whatever. You're going to have to do it. But when it comes to being really efficient with your time, whether you're doing like a work project or a passion project, I want to challenge you to turn your phone on, do not disturb, turn your timer on 30 minutes and focus on what you are doing. And then the next 20 minutes, walk away, go clean, do something different. Okay. And then come back to it. Right. So when you're just staring at your screen for 8 hours, it's not great. Give yourself a little bit of grace, but be intentional with your time and set timers. Right. The next thing is sometimes you do have to multitask. I'm not going to lie. Right before this podcast, I was pumping. All right. I have a hands-free pump and I was putting some notes in and I was ordering some groceries. Okay. That isn't something that I had to be super efficient about, right? Ordering groceries. I'm not doing a work project or a passion project, so I could multitask, pump and order groceries, clean and pump. Anyway, so multitasking does work, but most of the time, if it's something that you want to get done in an efficient amount of time, make sure that you are setting that timer. That's all we got, right? Am I missing anything?
That's it.
Oh, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. All right, I just want to do a recap real quick for everybody. I'm so fired. Cecily's like laughing at me. I'm so fired up about this episode. It's so good. But a recap of some of the apps and some of the things that we said. All right, so make sure you are being intentional with your relationships. All right, your family, your friends, your spouse, your kids. You're unplugging. Make sure you are being intentional with your home and your space. You are decluttering. Make sure you are being intentional with your movement. And then I wanted to just go ahead and go over a few of those apps one more time. All right. The Pair app, that's the couple app that Cecily talked about. The grocery app is called Instacart. The laundry app is called Poplin. There's an adventure challenge for couples, and there's a family edition. There's a refocus app that Cecily talked about. There's a great book, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And when it comes to your vacations, make sure you're not only doing a family trip, you are doing a girls retreat if you can, and then a vacation with your spouse.
All right, y'all. So listen, I want you to take the time this week to visualize your life 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and see where you want to be and start taking intentional steps towards it and how you want to spend your time and who you want to spend your time with. And we always want you to remember that you are worthy, you are capable, you are beautiful, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.